Appendix 2. Saint Nambiandar Nambi. At Tirunarayur in Cholamandalam, there lived an Adishaiva priest who was doing service at the shrine of Pillai. The priest had a son who was destined to make the Shaiva religion flourish. One day the Adishaiva priest had to go to a neighboring place, and he instructed his son to attend to Pillai. So the son, performing all the duties, offered fruits and sweet dishes to Pillai and prayed to him to eat the Naivetyam offerings. On seeing that Pillai did not partake of the food, the son felt sore and asked if he had done any wrong, and why Pillai did not accept his offering, and he was about to knock his head against a stone. Thereupon Pillai, saying, "Wait, Nambi," swallowed the offerings. The priest's son, henceforth called Nambiandar Nambi, became overjoyed and said, "Oh, my lord, it is already late for my school. My master will take me to task, so I request you to teach me all the Vedas and Shastras." Pillai gladly taught his disciple everything. Nambiandar Nambi was thus progressing with his studies and composed the poem Tiruvirate Manimalai on Pillai. At this time, King Appayakuleshakara Chola Maharaja was ruling at Tiruvalur. This king was himself a great devotee of god Theagesar of Tiruvalur. The king, having come to know of the miracles of Nambiandar Nambi with his mighty armies and all paraphernalia, went to him with large quantities of fruits and sweets, and worshipping Nambiandar Nambi, requested him to offer all his fruits and sweets to Pillai. Nambiandar Nambi sanctified the offerings and gave them to the god, who graciously ate them. Thereupon the king was mightily pleased and prayed to Nambiandar Nambi to bring to light the Tevara hymns of the three great Shaiva apostles and the histories of the Shaiva saints. Nambiandar Nambi made a request to Pillai, who said, "There is at the back of the golden temple at Chidambaram a room bearing the palm imprints of the three great apostles, and the Tevara hymns are preserved there." Pillai also recounted the histories of the Shaiva saints. This fact was intimated to the king. The king, accompanied by Nambiandar Nambi, went to Chidambaram. There they all bathed in the sacred tank Shivaganga, and after the usual ceremonies went to the temple and worshipped the presiding lord. Nambiandar Nambi then composed the poem Koyurirupaniyar Virutam on the Lord of the Golden Temple. The king intimated the Andanars of Pillai, Chidambaram, about his errand. The Andanars said that if the king could bring those three saints, the room could be opened. Thereupon the king conducted a huge festival in honor of Sri Natarajar, and took the idols of the three great saints in procession, and brought them before the room containing the Tevara hymns. The Andanars were pleased with the intelligence of the king, and opened the room. It was a most heartrending sight to see the palm leaves on which the hymns were written all covered with white ants and earth. The palm leaves were carefully taken and cleaned with oil. The king wept at the destruction of almost all the leaves. Then the Lord of Pillai, in a voice from heaven, proclaimed, "Only those hymns which are fit for this age are preserved, and all the rest have been consumed by the white ants at our will." Then the king got pacified and danced in ecstasy. He asked Nambiandar Nambi to compile the Tevara hymns and other sacred utterances. Accordingly, Nambiandar Nambi compiled the sacred utterances, accepting his own compositions, into 11 sacred books as detailed in Appendix 1. After completing this compilation and classification, Nambiandar Nambi composed the Tiruvandadi on the lives of the Shaiva saints, having as his original the Tirutantatogai retold by Pillai. Further, Nambiandar Nambi composed another Tiruvandadi, Tiruchanbai Varutam, Tirumumanikovai, Tiruvulamalai, Tirukalambagam, and Tirutogai, in praise of Saint Tirujnana Sambandamurti, Nayanar, and Tiruvegadasa Malai, on Saint Tirunavakarasur Nayanar. On the request of the king, the 10 Prabandhams of Nambiandar Nambi were also included in the 11th book. Then they all repaired to the shrine at Tiruvarakatham and prayed to God to let them know the tunes in which the hymns were to be sung. A voice rose from the heavens and said, "Friends, go to the girl born in the family of Tirunilakanta Parampanan, and she will fix the tunes." Then that girl was sent for, and she sang the songs in their proper tunes. Again a voice from heaven said, "Friends, take this girl to the golden temple, and there fix the tunes for the Tevara hymns." This mandate was accordingly carried out. After this, Nambayandar Nambi went back to Tirunarayur, and after spending his days in the service of our Lord Shiva, he attained his salvation. Apaya Kula Shakara Chola Maharaja went back to Tiruvalur and engraved the 11 Tiramurais on copper plates, which were carefully preserved at the shrine of Thyagesar. After long years of service in the cause of Shaiva religion, the king was gathered to the feet of Lord Shiva. Appendix 3. Saint Sekular Nayanar. Arunmala Thevar and his brother Palaravayar were born at Kunratur in Tondai Mandalam in the Sekular family of the Valala community. As Arunmala Thevar was the most famous in the family, he came to be called Sekular. As he was learned, wise, and righteous, King Anapaya Chola Maharaja made Sekular the chief minister, and dubbed him Uttama Cholai Palavar. Sekular was greatly devoted to the shrine at Tirunagesvaram in Chola Nadu, so he erected a temple at Kunratur and named it Tirunagesvaram. He was continuing his daily worship in the temple, and at the same time he was effectively and wisely administering the kingdom of Anapayachola Maharaja. At this time, some of the Shaivites, including the king, began to admire Jainism and were reveling in reading Jivakachintamani, the greatest of the Jaina works. Sekular felt very sorry at this and said to the king that he, as a Shaivite, should not believe in the false story of Jivakachintamani, but should study his own religion, which solves the problems of life here and elsewhere, and worship the true god Shiva. The king asked his minister which was the true religion. Sekular then mentioned the greatness of the Tirutanda Togai of Saint Sundaramurti Nayanar and the Tiruvandadi of Nambayandar Nambi. The king requested Sekular to explain and expound the Tiruvandadi. Sekular complied with the request. Thereupon King Anapaya Chola Maharaj asked Sekular to write a work in easy style, enlarging and elaborating the lives of the Shaiva saints. Providing himself with ample funds from the king, Sekular went to Chidambaram, and with purity of body and soul he prayed to the Lord of the Golden Temple to give him the first word to begin his work on the lives of the saints, whom all the world cannot know, rose from heaven. Having this as the first line, Sekular composed and finished his great work, and called it Puranam. The king, who had been making inquiries about the progress of Sekular's work, was told by messengers that the work was completed. The king loaded those messengers with gold for the glad tidings they brought to the king, who immediately started for Chidambaram with his hosts surrounded by chariots, elephants, cavalry, and infantry. The king was welcomed by Sekular, the Andanars, and the heads of Muts. At the sight of the divine and saintly appearance of Sekular, the king involuntarily worshipped Sekular and prostrated at his feet. Then they all went to the presence of the golden temple. A voice from heaven said, "O Chola king, with our words as the first line, Sekular has completed the lives of the saints, so listen to them." The king thereupon sent invitations to all to come and hear the great work sung. The temple and the city of Chidambaram were decorated most gaily. Innumerable pandits, professors, disciples, grammarians, and all thronged at the temple. Before the audience, the great work was placed with great devotion on a pedestal with 6 legs, and covered with green and white silks. Flowers were placed on the book, incense was burnt, camphor was lighted, praises were offered. Then the king asked Sekular himself to sing and explain his songs. All became overjoyed at hearing the great devotion, sacrifice, and the salvation of the lives of the saints. The king from that day ordered puja for the Lord of the Golden Temple. He also fed and attended to the wants of the Andanars, heads of Muts, and all the guests who came there to listen to the Tiratandar Periyapuranam. Sekular commenced recounting the lives in the month of Chitrai, April through May, under the star Tiruvadirai, and it was finished under the same star in the same month next year. After this, pujas were offered to the Periyapuranam. Then it was wrapped up in green silk and placed in a golden bowl. Then it was placed on the head of an elephant. Secular and the king both mounted on the same elephant, the king doing service to Secular by fanning him with white fur with both the hands, and saying, "Is this not the fruit of my tapas?" Then they all started on a procession round the city, which was decorated with flower garlands and green leaves. The streets were kept scrupulously clean, and were strewn with flower drawings and fried rice. Brahmans chanted the Vedas, Andanars singing the Tevara hymns, and the innumerable devotees shouting Hara Hara accompanied the procession. After this they all came once again to the front of the temple. The Periyapuranam was taken down from the elephant and placed on the pedestal. Now the king gave the title Tundarsir Puravar to Secular, who was then honored with the crown of wisdom. The king then prostrated before Secular and worshipped him. The king included Periyapuranam among the Tirumarais as the 12th. He caused it to be engraved on copper plates and kept them at the temple. The king inquired after Secular's brother Palaraviyar, who was worshipping God in Tirunageshwaram after constructing a tank there. Palaravayar was sent for, dubbed Tandaiman, and made the chief minister. Saint Secular spent his days at Chidambaram, and in the end reached the shade of the feet of Lord Shiva. Saint Umapati Shivacharyar has composed in verses an authoritative and glowing history of Saint Secular, which is worthy of perusal. Appendix 4. The sources of the Puranam. It has been the usual custom amongst ancient writers of great works to ascribe their authorship to God or a yogi. They further mystify it by saying that the works were written prior to the occurrence of the events mentioned in those works. It is said that the Ramayana was written before Rama was born. In the matter-of-fact world of today, such stories are called myths. Anyhow, for our purpose, it is enough to indicate the several sources as handed down to us by tradition. 1. Lord Shiva told the stories of the lives of the Shaiva saints to his consort Parvati before these saints were ever born. This fact and the stories are found in Amsha 9 of Shivarahasyam, one of the chief itihasas. If this tradition is correct, then the original of the Periyapuranam is in Sanskrit. Saint Sundaramurti Nayanar sang the Tiratanda Togai at the inspiration of the Lord Shiva as Thyagesar at Tiruvalur in Tanjore district. This is in Tamil. It is not stated by anyone that Saint Sundarar knew the existence of Shivarahasyam. Hence, it is easy to say that the Periyapuranam is not derived from a Sanskrit source. Further, all the saints were born in the Tamil Nadu, and it is really beyond the stretch of human imagination to trace the sources to an alien or a different language. Again, at the time the saints flourished, the condition, status, and culture of the Tamil literature were perfect and supreme, as is evidenced by the fact that the Chera, Chola, and Pandya kings encouraged, honored, and worshipped the poets in such a degree unparalleled in the history of any other literature of the world. Therefore, it cannot but be concluded that the Periyapuranam is an original Tamil work of great beauty and art. 3. Umapayu Maharishi in Mount Kailasham recounted to his disciples the tales of Saint Sundarar and other saints mentioned in the Tiratanda Togai at the time when Saint Sundarar was entering Kailasham in flesh on the white elephant. Upamanyu's tales are called the Shiva Bhakta Vilasa, which is written in Sanskrit. Here it is clearly acknowledged that the Tiratanda Togai is the original. 4. Nambayandar Nambi sang his Tiruvandadi after receiving instructions on the Tiratanda Togai from Pillai at Tirunarayur. Here also the Sanskrit sources are not mentioned. 5. Saint Secular composed the Periyapuranam on the inspiration of, and in the immediate presence of, Sri Natarajar at the Golden Temple of Chidambaram. It is needless to point out that the lives of the Shaiva saints are found originally in Tamil and not in Sanskrit. Also see my father's introduction.